Thanks for making a date. Now, the current uncertainty surrounding the completion date for Ghana's program with the IMF has had some negative impact on the country's bonds and the cedi. This follows comments by President Akufo-Addo that the program would not be extended when it ends in April 2018. George Riafe has the following, more in the following report. That report definitely will be coming to you. Meanwhile, economist Dr. Joe Abe has warned the current developments could hurt the country's bonds and the Ghana cedi, saying it calls for more work to restore policy credibility.
About our relationship with donors, and particularly with the IMF and imposition of conditionalities, is a question of internalizing the discipline needed to live within our means. If you don't find that discipline, then you turn to the IMF, and you turn to the IMF, you can run into problems about the conditions for getting assistance. So all of this means that we have to accept the challenge that we have reached the point, and we should not say that just out of pride. We must be able to convince ourselves that we are determined to not have to have projects and so on that require somebody else to come and support us, and then we argue about the terms. So I'm saying to you that for me, hearing the president says that everything else that anybody is doing, we're going to have to go back and decide that we will complete the project on schedule, but the implication of that is what I'm saying we need to put our minds together on. But this is what the president stands. So any further discussions about the terms of writing an extension, I'm saying to you that the loss of credibility is more damaging than you might think. So we have to say that implied in the president's statement to the public, it means that he's saying that the decision is that we are going to go for completion April 2018. Period.
Well, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says there will be a deliberate effort by government to boost Ghanaian ownership and management of the economy. Even though there are no reliable estimates, most of the big businesses operating in the country are controlled by foreigners, especially in the oil sector. The finance minister at the president's encounter with the media on Tuesday told Joy Business government appreciates the importance of having Ghanaians own the economy. Mr. Ofori-Atta, however, questioned the claim that the economy is in foreign hands.
The issue is to, one, interrogate whether the economy is in foreign hands. Well, so that we can talk about that.
So we
but in terms of, forward-looking, I think really if you listen to the presidency, the issue of Ghanaian dominance, Ghanaian hegemony, I think it's very clear to him, and it's for all of us. And I did say it at the National Policy Summit, that I cannot be working from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. to wake up and hand the economy over to foreign entities. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think there's going to be a very deliberateness in ensuring that this economy is managed and owned by Ghanaians. And the whole concept of Ghana beyond aid, as you have heard him say, is really at the core of that commitment.
The finance minister also added that government is still committed to reducing electricity tariffs, a promise government made during the 2016 campaign. He says the tariffs would come down once government succeeds in reducing the cost of generating power.
We all, aware of the situation we inherited. I don't think I need to preach to you about that, in which almost everything was, in a sense, pear-shaped. And everything we are doing is to just gradually move the needle away from that type of dependency and sort of the wrong pricing of elements. And I think we've gone ahead to endorse the compact, which really, in a sense, is to begin to rationalize the energy sector, electricity sector. The expectation is that electricity company loses about 35% or so of its transmission, and then is unable to collect almost half of it. And those are inefficiencies that need to be resolved. And once they are resolved, prices will come down. But also, in effect, is our expectation that the supply of gas will increase, which changes the mix of the cost of energy, and that should be helpful. I think our preoccupation is how do you make the life of the Ghanaian better? How do you build confidence in ourselves, and how do we move beyond aid? And that's a commitment that, I think we all share.
Okay. So from what you're saying, I'm reading that indeed we're looking at a situation where we're going to have electricity tariffs come down.
I pray so, with all that we are doing with efficiency.
And that was the Finance Minister. We can talk now about the IMF program. We've been telling you that the current uncertainty surrounding the completion date for the program with the IMF has had some negative impact on the country's bonds and the city. Now, that follows comments by the President, Akufo-Addo, that the program would not be extended when it ends in April 2018. We can now watch George Raffe's report.
Checks by Joy Business on the various trading platforms for the country's bonds showed that the cost or yield on city bonds that would mature around 2021 went up by some 100 basis points. Development was not different on the currency market, as the cedi witnessed some marginal decline in value, trading at around 4 Ghana cedis.
And that was George Raffe's report. We are heading now to Liberia. That country's vice president has extended invitation to investors, calling for them to turn to the country, especially towards its energy sector. Currently, power supply in Liberia only meets 10% of the population's needs. The energy situation has pushed the media houses to close transmission for more than 4 hours daily. Vice President Joseph Boakai says after 14 years of war, Liberia's economy is ready for investors.
At 70 years, Liberia is the oldest republic. However, the country is noted as one of the poorest nations in the world. Access to electricity supply is noted as one of the major drawbacks as business continues to struggle to survive after the country's hydropower was destroyed in the 14 years of war. Liberia so far supplies only 10% electricity to its capital city, Monrovia, while rural communities receive about 2%. This has stampeded the Liberian economy, pushing it towards an agrarian one, with little emphasis on manufacturing, as total power supply stands at less than 230 megawatts. Businesses call the supply a standby one since it's hardly available. Apart from its lack of availability, businesses cannot tell when power supply will be available to plan a schedule.
Well, right behind me, workers here are busy doing their work, but at the back of their minds, they know that by the end of the month, if things do not go well for the owner of this business, 20 of them could be going home. The issues are diverse: currency fluctuation, power cuts, and the quality of materials that their boss will have to get to run this business.
Media houses constantly break transmission to cut down on costs. Many radio and television stations have to close transmission by midday and resume at 4 p.m. to save revenue, since these are not peak hours for them. Joy Business spoke with May Ure, the wife of the richest Liberian businessman, and the impact of the inadequate power supply on their business.
After maybe in some cases salaries, that is the most expensive part of running a business. Right now, the National Grid, which is Liberian Electricity Corporation, I don't think it's doing even 10% of the population. Even in Monrovia, it does not cover. And like places like the farm where we run 24 hours on our own generators. So that is definitely one of the challenges of doing business in Liberia.
Apart from power supply, manufacturers will also have to grapple with standards which are not in place. Plastic supply for sachet water, for example, which got destroyed in the line of production, has been heaped in bags and contributes further to the cost of production.
We buy most of our product into the USD. Okay, and now when we do the buying, many of the products we buy from the Lebanese or the Indian, some our things are the fake products. After production, we have a huge loss. There's no quality, there's no standard put in place to know that which material for that we are already using to our institution or our business area.
Transportation and poor road network makes doing business in Liberia a daunting one that requires other players in the economy. Francis Toby, a businessman in Liberia's capital, recounts goods given to a driver to deliver in a nearby village. He could not have access to his things worth about $15,000 owing to poor roads and ended up being stolen by the driver. The economy of Liberia, as they turn 170, will need a lot of involvement from investors, but will require the country to also strengthen its currency, even though it also uses the United States dollar as a legal tender. The Liberian dollar is hardly used in the country as everything is quoted in the US dollar. The evidence is that the Liberian dollar is displayed on tables in bundles, as it's even unattractive for thieves. The vice president of Liberia, in an exclusive interview with Joy Business, added that in the midst of the challenges are opportunities.
I don't believe that presidency means you are clothed with all of the knowledge, but you work with people who are experts who can advise. And I think at that point in time, we'll listen and make the right decision.
It rains more than 6 months in Liberia, condition conducive for the planting of rice. In spite of this, however, importation of rice takes more than 30% of the country's annual budget. That's $200 million a year.
Well, we head back to Ghana. I want to tell you about an international root and tuber entrepreneurship development program that was held in the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi. And a researcher at the Crop Research Institute is urging government to encourage entrepreneurs who are into food processing to enhance food security. Professor Joseph Ni Lamte says value addition will also sustain the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative by reducing post-harvest losses. There's more in this report.
Ajuata of Ejuso in the Ashanti region is both farmer and trader in tuber and roots, mainly cassava and yam. She bemoans the crops she harvests can be stored for only about 2 months, resulting in losses.
After harvesting, I dig and hide some underground. It can be there for about 2 months. In most cases, some get destroyed.
Roots and tubers are estimated to suffer between 30% and 60% post-harvest losses.
Now
Professor Lamte says processing is the most preferred option to protect the farmer from losses whilst food security improves.
Yam too also have a limited time, and they have problems. When they are not stored well, they have rots, and then even rodents attacks here and there. Of course, we have barns that we normally will recommend to farmers to keep the yams, in barns and tubers. But sometimes they are reluctant. I mean, these are produce, that are quite, what do you call it? They are, when we look at the sizes of these tubers and other things here. And so they may want to leave it in their farms, and then the damage is rot. So if also in that area we have a way of processing these products, I think it also do well for the farmers, like cocoa yam and also other root food research institute, CSR food research institute, they are doing their best. And then Ministry of Agric, I know they are also doing their best to train more people, but I think we need more training.
The Root and Tuber Division of the Crops Research Institute organized an international training session on the subject. Participants from 13 West African countries will sharpen their skills in agricultural value chain. Jonas Osedu is coordinator of the Agricultural Productivity Technology Center at Crops Research Institute.
The aim is to actually take them through the whole value chain. That is starting from seed production, actual production, processing, and then business plan development. So that once they leave here, they'll be able to set up agribusinesses on their own and run. One of the biggest challenges in West Africa is unemployment. And we believe there's huge economic potential in root and tuber crops. That is why we are partnering CORAF as well as WAP to be able to train participants in root and tuber entrepreneurship development.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
All right, we'll be talking bread next on the Joy Business Van right after this break. Welcome back. Time now for the Joy Business Van. It's a family business which has spanned 3 generations. HP Bakery, makers of HP bread, has gone from just serving a neighborhood to the city of Accra. So the Joy Business Van was curious to find out how the family which owns the bakery at Kotobabi here in Accra has managed to keep the business afloat over a period of 30 years. Arguably, the Ghanaian breakfast is not complete without bread. Bread is probably just about the most common snack in the country, and the bakery business seems to be booming. One of the popular brands comes from this bakery we are taking you to. HP Bakery is managed by Adelaide Raindorf Beniti. The business dates back to the 70s and was handed over by her father just this year. The family business was started by Adelaide's grandmother in a kitchen.
She was a caterer, so when she didn't have any catering gigs, she would bake bread and she would sell it in front of the house. And the neighborhood folks started patronizing the bread, and it was called Home Pride bread, actually. But the neighborhood people nicknamed it HP bread for the H and the P in the Home Pride, so it became HP bread.
Adelaide's grandmother, also called Adelaide, grew a following. What was a part-time business now seemed viable. After almost 2 decades, Adelaide would move from baking in her kitchen to her garage. That was when she passed the business on to her only son, Edwin Carl Raindorf. Edwin, an accountant who was living outside the country at the time, had the tough task of growing the business.
I had to learn a lot more by myself to get where I am now. Management, everything, nearly everything. And then studying the Ghanaian business atmosphere, climate, which is another thing altogether. So that's what I did. But I had to go at it slowly, step by step.
Well, step by step, Edwin grew the business. At a point, it was difficult to meet demand. That informed the decision to transform the business from manual production to acquiring automated equipment. This cost about 500,000 cedis, an investment that has paid off.
And when he started with the investments in the business, I was very scared because I felt, wow, this is our lifeline. And if we're not able to make the production to pay this money back, we're going to kill the business. But it has been a journey. It has been a journey. It took a lot of time to pay it off, but we are here today.
Today, HP Bakery supplies thousands of outlets in the city of Accra and is no longer in the garage. Edwin is now retiring from the business after successfully managing it for 30 years. And when it was time to decide on who would take over from Edwin, the lot fell on Adelaide, one of 5 children. She faces the uphill task of building on the successes chalked by her father. The chartered accountant is not exactly new to the business, though.
I've always worked in the bakery from when I was a child. I mean, my daughter is here, she's on vacation. It's the same thing. This was how I started. You come in on vacations or when you close from school, and then you jump in and help with anything that needs that. So by the time I was 10, I could make a loaf of bread. By the time I was 10, I mean, you put me in the bakery and I can do everything because it was how we grew up. So I don't see it as a job. It is just what we do. We make bread.
Adelaide, however, recognizes the bread bakery business is changing and would take more innovation to stay profitable.
My first order of business was social media. So I immediately got us on social media. We just started it just last month. We got on Facebook. We started with that slowly, and we are doing it ourselves. We don't really have any help to do it. So me and my sisters are working on the social media to see how well it will go. We branded our vehicles. We want to start taking our billboards. Eventually, we may look at advertising, but as usual, I'm a little wary about spending too much money, just being cautious. But I just want us to grow the brand name.
Adelaide has got the support of her siblings, and the aim is to expand and have production centers across the country. And who knows, perhaps export bread from Ghana. One thing is for sure, the family legacy continues.
You'll be happy. That's all.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see that little girl take over the family business sometime in the future. Time now for your busy bits. Top ways to extend your iPad's battery life. Adjust auto brightness. Obviously, while you're using your iPad, the screen itself will be the biggest drain on the battery. There's no reason to keep it at full brightness all the time. Just swipe up from the bottom of the screen and you see the brightness slider at the top right. Moving on now to our interview of the day, and economist Professor Godfrey Bokwin says any move by government to pull out of the IMF program could lead to Ghana losing its credibility on the international market. President Akufo-Addo stated in his engagement with the media that his government is committed to completing the IMF program. Speaking to Joy Business, Professor Bokwin said government is capable of meeting its targets by the IMF.
Interview of the day.
Verification has come, and this is verifiable with their correspondence with the IMF also. The fact that Ghana is committed to the program. From where I sit, it will be in our own best interest to commit to the IMF program and ensure that Ghana actually does well under the program, because the program contains useful structural reforms, and in terms of the indicative target, the structural benchmarks and all of that, these are things that if we are able to do, it will inure to the benefit of the economy, especially in the medium to the long term. So that is the fact. But under the current circumstance, a program extension is more logical approach, unless we want to say that we are not interested in achieving the program objective. But if we want to achieve the program objective, the structural benchmarks, reforms and all of that, then the time left is too short for this adjustment to be carried through. Otherwise, we are going to more or less like front load the physical adjustment that needed to be done to restore to the indicators to the more acceptable level. And the reason is simple. The 1 year of implementation of the IMF program from April 2015 to middle of 2016.
Help us understand the best ways by which governments would have to tackle the burgeoning debt situation.
The most effective way to manage your debt is to grow your economy. Grow your economy. Expand the cash flow generation capacity of your economy. How would you do that? That is not easily controllable. It's to invest money by making prudent use of the limited borrowing space that you have. Invest in the productive sectors of the economy.
Interview of the day.
Thanks as always for watching this program. We are back same time tomorrow. My name is Darryl Crow.